They ordered her to remove the uniform until the base commander spotted the tattoo on her back. The room was silent, almost too silent. Rows of soldiers, sweating from morning drills, stared at her. She had just arrived at the base, a transfer nobody had expected. Her uniform fit perfectly, but there was something about her posture, the way she moved, that made others uneasy. "Remove the uniform," the order came from a junior officer, sharp, authoritative, yet dripping with arrogance. He expected compliance. She expected nothing. The murmurs in the room grew louder. A few soldiers chuckled, thinking this was just another rookie being tested. They didn't know who she was. They didn't know what that uniform meant. She turned slowly, her face calm, eyes steady. The silence hung heavier than any command. She had been through hundreds of drills, countless missions, and more danger than these soldiers could ever imagine. And yet, here she was, standing still, unshaken. "I said, remove it," the officer repeated, his voice sharper now. That's when the first soldier stepped closer, smirking. He thought he could intimidate her. One hand reached toward her uniform. A laugh slipped from his lips. What he didn't know was that her body told a story no uniform could hide. Every muscle trained, every scar earned, every mission survived. She had walked through war zones, jungles, and deserts, places that left most men broken. And now she faced a different battlefield, one of ignorance, arrogance, and assumptions. The soldiers began to push. The junior officer gestured impatiently. "We don't have all day." She turned just slightly, just enough for the officer and the room to see it. On her back, partially hidden by the uniform, was a tattoo, a complex emblem of a Navy SEALs unit, insignia worn by only the most elite. Every detail spoke of decades of service, clandestine operations, and a legacy of the Navy SEALs. The room froze. Breaths caught in throats. Laughter disappeared. The arrogance vanished like smoke. This was no ordinary soldier. This was someone whose life had been dedicated to service, discipline, and survival. Someone whose reputation preceded her, even if no one knew it yet. Across the room, a senior officer walked in. He saw the tattoo, and for the first time, the junior officer realized the mistake he had made. This wasn't a woman to order around. This was a warrior, forged in battles they couldn't comprehend. And in the next few moments, everything in that room would change. The room was tense. Every soldier's eyes were locked on her back, the tattoo partially revealed beneath the uniform, a mark that carried stories of missions, discipline, and battles most could only imagine. The junior officer's face turned pale. He tried to regain control, but the air had already shifted. The soldiers who had laughed just moments ago now glanced at each other, uncertainty creeping into their movements. One of them, the same soldier who had reached toward her uniform, stepped forward again, trying to assert dominance. His hand hovered, hesitant. I think we should finish this," he muttered. She didn't flinch. Instead, she moved with the quiet precision of someone trained to read intentions before they were acted on. Her eyes scanned the room, calm, controlled, every muscle ready but relaxed, a predator disguised as patience. The officer stepped closer, trying to mask his own doubt with authority. "Remove it now." That was his mistake. In one fluid motion, she shifted her weight, turned slightly, and lifted the corner of her uniform just enough to fully reveal the tattoo, a complex emblem of a Navy SEALs unit, insignia worn by only the most elite. Every detail spoke of decades of service, clandestine operations, and a legacy of the Navy SEALs. The room froze. Breaths caught in throats. Laughter disappeared. The arrogance vanished like smoke. This was no ordinary soldier. This was someone whose life had been dedicated to service, discipline, and survival. Someone whose reputation preceded her, even if no one knew it yet. Across the room, a senior officer walked in. He saw the tattoo, and for the first time, the junior officer realized the mistake he had made. This wasn't a woman to order around. This was a warrior, forged in battles they couldn't comprehend. The room had changed. The arrogance had been replaced by caution, fear mixed with awe.
The room remained frozen. Even the junior officer who had barked orders just moments ago could barely speak. The tattoo on her back wasn't just ink, it was a symbol of elite service, a mark earned by decades of extreme training, impossible missions, and survival under conditions that most soldiers could never imagine. She turned slowly, just enough for the room to take in her calm, disciplined stance. Every movement carried authority, every glance measured intent. No anger, no threat, just pure confidence. The senior officer stepped forward, his voice steady but heavy. "Everyone, look closely. This isn't a new transfer. This is someone who has spent 20 years in the Navy SEALs. Every mission she's completed, every operation, every training drill, it all led to this moment." The soldiers shifted uncomfortably. Whispers ran through the room. Some swallowed hard, others avoided eye contact entirely. The junior officer's face had turned red, a mixture of embarrassment and fear. One soldier, the first to try to touch her uniform, finally found his voice. "Wait, she's a Navy SEAL?" A single nod from her was enough, no words required. Her presence said more than any explanation ever could. The senior officer addressed the room again. "You have just learned a hard lesson. Never judge a soldier by appearance or assumption. Experience and training carry a weight that arrogance can't match." The soldiers began to grasp the magnitude of their mistake. Every laugh, every mocking gesture, every thoughtless shove, they had been facing someone who could destroy them in a second, yet she had restrained herself. That restraint was more terrifying than any act of aggression. The junior officer swallowed hard, finally understanding the hierarchy he had disrupted. I didn't know." "You don't get to not know in situations like this," she said calmly. Her tone wasn't angry, it was instructional, like a teacher correcting a lesson that should have been learned years ago. The room remained silent, the lesson sinking in. Respect, she demonstrated, was earned, not demanded, and the soldiers would carry this moment with them for the rest of their careers. The officer turned toward her, nodding with recognition. "You will lead the upcoming training sessions. Their discipline will be rebuilt under your supervision." The soldiers' eyes widened again. The reality sank in. Their arrogance would be replaced by rigorous training, precision, and respect, guided by someone who had lived and survived far more than they ever would. The tension didn't end in the changing room. It followed them onto the training field. The soldiers, once brimming with arrogance, now lined up silently under her watchful gaze. Every move they made was observed, every mistake noted. She didn't raise her voice, she didn't yell, she simply commanded with presence, a presence forged over 20 years as a Navy SEAL in places where hesitation meant death. The first soldier, the one who had demanded she remove her uniform, struggled under the weight of full combat gear. Sweat ran down his face as he executed drill after drill, each movement precise yet exhausting. She adjusted his posture, tightened his vest straps, corrected his stance, her hands firm, confident, unshakable. You don't get respect by forcing it. You earn it through discipline and control. Others watched silently, realizing the harsh truth. This wasn't punishment, it was education, the kind that leaves a mark far deeper than humiliation ever could. By the end of the day, the soldiers were exhausted, disciplined, and aware of the hierarchy they had underestimated. The officer who had barked orders now observed from the sidelines, arms crossed, nodding in approval. Later, one of the soldiers approached her quietly. I was wrong. I misjudged you." She studied him for a moment, then nodded once. "Don't make the same mistake twice." No lectures, no dramatics. The lesson had been delivered in action, in presence, in skill. Weeks passed. Training under her guidance transformed the unit. Mistakes became lessons. Confidence became respect. Fear turned into admiration. They were no longer the same soldiers who had mocked her. They were sharper, faster, and far more aware of what true strength looked like. As the sun set over the base one evening, the soldiers stepped aside, not out of fear, not out of obedience, but out of understanding. She had taught them something far greater than tactics or drills. She had taught them humility, discipline, and respect for experience, the kind that can only be earned in the fires of real combat. And as the sun set over the base, one truth remained clear: arrogance never survives in the presence of true warriors. This is united war, where experience, skill, and courage always command respect, and lessons are learned the hard way.